What up? Thank you for joining What Up with Rob and Chris. Chris was not able to make it for the show today. He had a change in schedule. So I'll do the Chris's job. If you don't know James Buckman and Hot Apollo, you should. James, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Pretty well. My pleasure to be here.
Yes. So you're up in Canada, right? You're in Toronto?
Toronto, yes.
Okay. Are you from the Toronto area, or are you from somewhere else before?
Mainly Toronto. I spent a fair bit of my childhood in England, but I've mainly grown up in Toronto. Okay.
Well, we're gonna get into Hot Apollo, but I've been reading your blog, so I wanted to go right to there. First of all,
all right, you're like one
Leslie
of
Mann in an epic treehouse. I'm all about. I love that idea.
Yeah.
So he in his blog, if you get the check to go hotapollo.rocks, is that correct?
Honestly, all the domain names .com, .rocks, .biz, whatever. It's
okay, so you can go to find all about Hot Apollo and James and his band and everything there. But he's got a blog, and he's got some really cool takes. Another thing that I was picking up in his blog, how he correlated Ewan McGregor and connecting Christopher Robin the movie to Dr. Sleep, and I never even would have ever connected the two so wonderfully. So
you're pulling out all these things I barely remember. Like a lot of these just connections and ideas for blogs come to me as I'm falling asleep, and I just I wake up and do them right in the morning, and then as soon as I publish them, they're out of my head. And you're pulling all these things and just triggering vague memories in my head. It's wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I do my research, obviously. You see, I mean, the last one you'll probably remember is that is the cheese sticks, right?
That I do remember.
Okay, so tell us about that. I won't say it. You tell us your theory on cheese sticks and squirrels and rats and all that.
I can't remember how it started, but I just remember I was on this. I think it was my first or second date with some girl that ended the date ended well, but the whole relationship ended terribly. But that was a highlight. I remember saying, breadsticks are the squirrels of cheese, and one of the early good signs was the fact that she got it. And I don't remember what you're talking about, but it's the idea that people a lot of basic people tend to think that squirrels are the cutest, but they're afraid of rats. And really the difference is the thing that's covering them. Squirrels, they have the cute fuzzy tails, whereas I think there's some primal humanoid aversion to the rat tail because it looks like a worm or something. But if you just put a bunch of fuzz on it, you have a squirrel, and that's cute.
Then it's good, right?
Yeah.
I think the rat thing is that they're usually found in trash dumpsters, or they'll come in your house, where a squirrel won't, right?
That, there might be some sort of people think that rats carry disease, but everything can carry disease,
Well, it's true. Squirrels too, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Any little rodent can, raccoons, but people think raccoons are cute.
The trash pandas.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also they have the little thumbs, right? So that helps.
That's the thing that worries us. It's the little thumb thing.
Oh, I thought that made them cuter. It's more relatable.
Oh, it's better to have the little thumbs.
I think so. I think people like things that remind them of people,
Oh, yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
There's a comfort in that.
Yeah, the cutest dogs are the ones that sit like people, when they have a concept like that.
Oh,
yeah, they call it my friend is something of a dog expert, and she says that it's specifically called sitting pretty. And that is the cutest dog pose, objectively.
I'm gonna use that from now on. Sitting pretty. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great one that we're gonna use.
So she just got a new dog a few months ago, and she started posting Instagram stuff with it, and she got a sort of brand deal from the dog within a week. Because the dog was just born with this sort of tendency to do that.
Just sitting pretty.
Yeah. So it's a variable thing. So mozzarella sticks, the ones you get at restaurants like Olive Garden or whatever, they're basically just those cheese strings or whatever, the string cheese, or little tubes of cheese. I don't even know if they're like that. They're definitely around here, but I think they're somewhat regional. I don't know though. A lot of people, they give them to grade school kids, and then they stop eating them when they turn 10 or whatever. But grown adults will get so obsessed with extra mozzarella sticks,
Right.
And it's just because they have that sort of veneer of fried dough or whatever, which in my mind is essentially the fuzz on a squirrel's tail. You
I
know?
get it.
Yeah.
You know what? You've convinced me
Yeah.
that I agree. That's where we're at with that.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You also do poetry.
Yes, that was basically how I started.
Oh,
When I started, like poetry was like my only real artistic skill.
okay.
I couldn't play any instruments. My voice is still like very raw, but uh, but when I first started, it was probably worse. I remember being in a bunch of high school bands, and my friends, like the friends I started bands with, they wouldn't let me sing. They said, "You know what? We love your lyrics, but just like you can keep a beat, so just drum, mediocrely, but please don't sing." And so I dealt with that for a while. But yeah, so poetry was like my sort of entryway into music.
Okay.
I had this facility with language, and I wanted to do something with it. But I also like performing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'll write poetry until the day I die, and probably beyond.
Right.
But there's no charge quite like the one I get from being up on the stage with some electric guitar and jumping around, really, which is how I had to get back off of the drums eventually, because I like being at the front, jumping around, exploding like a maniac. That is my jam, with the lyrics in my mouth.
And you cannot perform unless you're in wild bangarang.
They have the best leggings. Yeah.
Right. And so that's as I learned about you. This is the best.
Yeah. Speaking
You
of,
got to perform in wild bangarang leggings. That's the only way to go.
they featured like my performance pictures on their like Instagram blog
Yeah.
in their leggings. So yeah, they like 90% of like the dozens of leggings I have in my closet are from that place, because they fit so well and they're so shiny and great. In fact, speaking of like bad relationship omens or good ones, well, this was a bad one. I went on a date with this girl like a month or two ago, and the first thing she said was like, I don't have an issue with leggings. I don't have an issue with flamboyancy. And like, she obviously didn't, because like, her favorite singer is like Mark Bolan, like the original like glitter god. So, but she said, you know what? The material those leggings are made out of, I don't like it. Just like, please wear like any other leggings. And I thought, all right, that's weird, but we'll see how it goes. And it didn't go. So yeah. Someone who doesn't like, only criticism I've ever heard of those leggings, really. Like I get like praise for them like quite often.
So that's on the list of like anybody to date, is the leggings is like the deal breaker. You got to figure that out, or that it doesn't work.
I don't really have any firm deal breakers, but that did seem like a bad omen.
I get that.
Yeah, that and I color my eyebrows sometimes, and she thought that made me look like a crackhead. Which again, I've gotten like compliments on the colored eyebrows too, so it's pretty like faint today. But yeah, so those two things together, it's like, what are you doing here?
How often does the hair change?
Well, I mean, over the course of like COVID, probably less than usual, because salons were not terribly open, and when they were, it was a sort of like sneaky deal thing. I tend to like keep it either in the sort of like pale blue or silver area when I can. Sometimes it goes wrong. Sometimes like my hair is just having a bad day and it goes like purple. But I've been sticking with this sort of realm pretty consistently for the last like 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Yeah, and also it gets I did this stupid thing 2 years ago. I didn't know it was stupid at the time, but I had to try it. So I got this tattoo. I don't know if it'll even come on camera. It's hard to like.
I think I can see it. Yeah.
Tattoo on the side of my head.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? I always, for like the next like year at least, I want it to be on constant display, because like when I get it into tattoo, I love showing it off. And like, I mean, I got this tattoo like 6 years ago, and I still always cut my shirts to reveal it because it's my favorite. But anyway, for this one, I thought I'm just gonna shave off like a third of my hair, like right here, like to like the root, basically, around the corner too, so it doesn't fall down, and just it'll always be there. And I know that it's gonna like suck when I try to grow it back, but c'est la vie. And so I had that for like a year and a half, maybe. And then I thought, you know what? It's time to grow it more normally. But it's just been such an arduous process of like letting it grow out, and then like trimming down the other side to match, and then letting it grow some more, and then trimming on the other side more. So like I'm trying to get like longer hair, but it just, I keep having to like bring it up. And like on the last occasion, I made a mistake and I had to like even out. So now it's even shorter than it should be. And it's like giving me little bits of anxiety, but I'm working through it. Especially
so you got to get out the heat of the summer, and then in the winter it's usually a good grow time, right?
No, I like going in the summer. It's just like I cutting it to match and just evening it out. It's just otherwise it'll like be all like lopsided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Hot Apollo. Let's get into Hot Apollo now. And like, how did that form? And obviously, you like to perform and stuff like that. What's the crowds like? What's kind of the atmosphere for your band right now?
So, well, it's, Toronto is still like just coming out of lockdown, and like live like indoor shows haven't quite resumed yet. But generally, we get like a really good reaction. Like I've even heard from people who don't typically listen to anything like our genre of music, I like rock or any outgrowth of it, say that like they've really got into it. Like there's a sort of energy we bring to our performance that like transcends like normal musical taste. You know, like rockheads like really get into it because like it's built with the same sort of like genetic structure on the stuff that you know they've that you know informed like the greats they canonize. But even if that's not your thing, like seeing us live like will really give you the charge, and it'll. I think we've been the entryway for a lot of people to get a new perspective on rock music instead of just thinking, oh, that's for like, you know, dads and boomers or whatever.
Well, I mean, everything's so processed now, you know, like to have live music come back is going to be really important. And I just a week ago actually got to go to my first live concert since the whole pandemic. I got to go see Naked Eyes and Flock of Seagulls. And
I've heard of the second band. I don't know the first.
The first one, Naked Eyes, sings "Promises, Promises." You'll look them up and you'll find out who they are. They're from England. They're from Britain, and they weren't supposed to be the band that was there. It was actually supposed to be Men Without Hats, but Canada was so locked down that they couldn't come down.
Oh, boo.
So I was all excited to safety dance. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, no, that.
No, I'm the big American football player. I'm a big guy, and I'm not supposed to be all that sports. Man, I love to dance and get up and go to the band. That's why I love being able to interview. Like, and I like all types of music. You know, there's something about going and seeing music live and just being in that and just dancing like nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like who's watching? I don't care. I'm going to dance and have fun. And I love that your band is that type of band that you can be whoever you want, and you're promoting that in your music, and you're just having a good time.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was listening like the safety dance like an hour ago. Like just it's a pretty constant, like a pretty regular like feature in my ears. But it came on shuffle like as I was like walking through the park an hour ago. So
that's awesome.
Ominous. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you know, it's funny because I've actually interviewed some other people in music on here. In fact, we did Musical Youth, Dennis Seaton from England, you know, Jamaica, England, all that stuff. And they sang Pastaducci, which is a 1980s 3, I think it was, and the runner-up of a Grammy winner. So it's really cool to go back to the old days of music and where they came from. And they're still out there playing. But what I love, and I know you're going to love when you get back into, is how happy everybody was to be there. That was so nice. And people were nice, nicer than I've ever seen. Like, it's like they're just so happy to be out again. And I don't know if you're planning gigs soon or you're trying to prep for anything like that, but I'm excited for you to get back up on stage.
Yeah, well, I've been like getting little bits of it. So a few weeks ago, like my friend had like a birthday party. She has this, so there's this like really old, like fairly storied venue in Toronto called Grossman's Tavern. And my friend happens to like live in the building above it with this like huge like rooftop patio. And her landlord is the guy who manages Grossman's Tavern, which means she obviously like is fine with like having like, you know, live music around within reason, even when the bar is closed. So for her birthday, my bassist and I went out to play a sort of like informal acoustic performance at her party, and that went over like really well. Like some of the people there were like just like awestruck. It wasn't like a huge gathering, but like some people were just like in love with just like seeing, you know, an energetic performance again. And right across the street is Kensington Market, and we're actually planning. We just acquired a sort of portable amplifier for our bassist, and we're gonna like bring the whole band down there and play like a like short like electric set there in the park in like a week or two, like the July 9th or 10th. Just awesome. before venues are open, we're just gonna give some live music. And I've seen other bands do that, and like you can tell, like people are so into it because just they're hungry for it.
They're hungry to be outside and just live again.
Yes. Oh, and I've seen that too. just like people like just talking to each other. And I mean, I feel as though Toronto's always been a pretty friendly city, but like over the last few weeks, I've been exposed to like so much more of it. Just like I think it's even more concentrated now.
Exactly. I think you'll be really surprised with that. So you're important to that. You're important to the fact that people are opening up, and as your city opens up, your band and you are going to be really important to, bringing a lot of that back. So that's really exciting. So how did you find the people that are a part of Hot Apollo? Like, what was the connection on that?
Honestly, a lot of it's just like places like Craigslist or Kijiji, just
Okay.
like for people who are down to like make the sort of music we're about, and down to commit. That's the hardest part. Like there's been a bit of a revolving door at times, because just like I've had the pleasure to work with a lot of amazing musicians, but like life sometimes pulls people in different directions, and people like I think like there's something about the band that almost makes people want to like overpromise. Like I've had people like come in and say, yes, you know what, I have a job and I have like, all these other responsibilities, but I really want to do everything I can for this band. And then like, after a month you realize, yeah, I do, but like I can't,
Yeah.
It's like you could have just said that like, at the start,
Right.
but whatever. I get it. But
Right.
I think that the people I'm with now, like they're like lifelong musicians. Like these it's a sort of like stubbornness, dedication, beyond all reason, just like this is like what's in my soul. I need to get it out there. I need to stick with it. And if you talk about all these bands that are still like playing after like 40 years, these like 80s stars, like it's not like they're like, I mean, I don't think that it's just like for the money. It's because they can't stop.
Right.
Like look at like Paul McCartney, right? That dude could have stopped playing like 50 years ago, and he would have like been fine. He would have been fine in like 10 different mansions, but he keeps doing it because he just can't stop. And
I
like
get that.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Conversely, if I never make a cent, I'm still not going to stop.
Yeah. I think that's amazing, because there's not many industries you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, at some point they do like to force you to retire, which sucks.
Even like pro athletes, at some point they just age out. There's nothing you can do. Music you can play forever. You can play till you're done.
Yeah, and some people like even like, I mean, there are some people like look at Iggy Pop and like Mick Jagger,
Right.
Like, I feel as though those dudes, and I relate to this, like they are two of my favorite performers for this reason, in part. It almost is an athletic endeavor for them. I mean, you're a football player. I don't want to like denigrate what you do. I know it's a different discipline, but like there are like some elements of like performance, especially as a singer, that do require keeping your body in some degree of shape. And the fact that like people like Jagger and Iggy Pop can do it into the 60s and 70s is impressive, and that is something that's inspiring to me personally. As as a singer who wants to keep doing that until I perish, but also as someone who like had some like health problems in younger years and had to like work to get past them. So it's like it makes me even more committed to like being the like healthiest I can be, because I want to still be jumping around on stage like a maniac when I'm like 75.
I get that.
It feels realistic,
People thought, like, obviously I played football and I was sporty and stuff like that, swam and all that. But here's the coolest thing that I ended up doing was I went back later and I ended up performing in a play.
Oh wow!
Called Love, Sex, and the IRS, and it's actually one of the big reasons why I do this show. Is because I wanted to get back out there and do stuff. I got bored. If I get bored and I can't do something, I don't like that. My mind doesn't like to just be just sedentary. It needs to do something. So I wanted to go and talk to amazing people like you all over the world. And it actually started local, and it became this local international show. And I'm talking to people all over the world. I just talked to somebody this morning, and they're all the way in England. Actually, he was in Austria. And,
wow.
And I get to do this, and I never had this opportunity before. But acting did that, and I can act forever, and I can do this show forever. It's amazing that like what you're doing as a musician. I appreciate it so much that there are things that we can still do, and you're also sharing the fact that you're going to do it forever. It doesn't matter whether you make a dime or not. It's what fills your bucket.
Yeah, like I mean, people like are always saying to me, you know what, like you've got something, like never stop, like never give up. And I say, like, man, giving up would like be impossible. Like I don't know if I'm like, you can say too dedicated or too stupid, but like I don't have it in me to stop. Like it would literally like you need to like sedate me, like, past the point of like any reasonability to like get me to even think about stopping performing for a second. It's like basically impossible.
So where's your inspiration for music coming from?
I mean, honestly, like it's I mean, on a creative level, it is like it does feel inherent. Like I feel as though I've always had these words and these like sentiments inside of me, and I just need to like get them out and push them to the furthest reaches of the universe. But in a sort of more practical sense, the guy that made me thought that I could at least have a chance in the business was Iggy Pop. Because as I said, when I started, I played no instruments, and like my voice was somewhat horrific. And I thought, you know what? Oh, and also, I looked at Iggy Pop and I thought, there's a dude who could not play any instruments. He did not have any sort of classical voice. He even shared my thing of starting out in high school bands as a mediocre drummer, but he had something he wanted to say, and he had a way of delivering it on stage. He had a presence. And those were my two main strengths. And I thought, if he can make a successful music career that spans decades with those tools, why don't I give it a go?
Right.
And that was it. After I thought of that precedent, like that was it. Because at the time I was still mainly working on poetry.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? No one makes any money from poetry unless they are already famous for something else. So I thought, you know what? Music it is. Like that's gonna be like my main squeeze. And I never looked back.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know we got to tie it up, but I got one more question before we do kind of tie up and head out of here. Where did the name Hot Apollo come from?
All right, so one of my ill-fated high school bands, he was actually the second person at my second school to come up to me with the exact sort of manifesto I would give if I were trying to convince someone to start a band with me. He said, you know what, let's bring rock and roll back. Let's be like the biggest thing in the nation. Let's just like be huge mega stars with our rock and roll. I said, you know what, that is my language. Let's give it a go. After a few weeks, he like somehow like lost interest and moved on to like mountain climbing or something. But within those 2 weeks, we were like tossing around band names. And by the way, he said, you know what? He was a big fan of like beat poetry, like Jack Kerouac and those people. So he had this one Allen Ginsberg poem he liked called "The Shrouded Stranger," which, as we speak, it's what, the penultimate day of Pride Month. So it was actually about basically having anonymous like gay orgies. It's called "The Shrouded Stranger," and there's this line in it. He refers to one of his partners as the Hot Apollo, and my friend said that's the perfect band name. Like, let's go for that. I would actually use it for my solo project, but my name is too awesome. Like, his birth name is Heart Needles, and he said, you know what? So later in when I started my next band, I thought of that. We originally called it Body Electric after a different poem, but then I realized that there were several bands with that name, and I called up my friend. And I said, yo, you're obviously not gonna use that name. Do you mind if we use it? He said, yeah, just remember, when anyone asks you where you got it from Heart Needles. And I said, yeah, all right, cool. So Heart Needles, the guy whose name was too fabulous to have a stage name, was the originator of that name, and it's stuck with us ever since. And it feels to me personally because I've always been a big fan of mythology. Yes. And sun god of like music, poetry, performance. I love that stuff. So, and also it rolls off the tongue. I like the assonance. I like the word. I like the mouth feel of the word Apollo. So yeah, Hot Apollo.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for coming up with What Up with Rob and Chris. Although it's just Rob, James, we'll be checking in on you as live stuff comes. We'll check in on you months down from here. Maybe have you back on the show if things are going really good. Anything new? Appreciate you. Love your love of comics and Marvel.
Yeah.
We didn't get to that, but there's a lot of.
Dude, Gwen Stacy is like one of our recent like recordings, so check that out.
All right, sounds good.
And a new video's out too. So, but yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook. We have all the links down in the description to find them. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon again.